Very much. Very good. Very good.
I probably will. No, I'm just saying I probably will.
Okay, with it being 6:34, we are going to call this meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we are going to start with our special recognitions with Ms. Jennifer Jones.
Thank you, Ms. Lang. Tonight, we'd like to recognize 4 students who competed and placed in the Missouri Regional Braille Challenge hosted by the Missouri School for the Blind. The Braille Challenge is the only academic competition of its kind in North America for students who are blind or visually impaired. Contestants are tested on fundamental Braille skills such as reading comprehension, spelling, speed and accuracy, proofreading, and charts and graphs. The challenge was developed to motivate students to practice and hone their Braille literacy skills, which are essential to success in both school and future careers. 4 students representing Warren Elementary, Francis Howe Middle, and Francis Howe Central placed in this year's state competition, and they are here with us tonight. I'm going to ask our faculty in the Vision Impaired program to join me at the podium to say a few words about each of these students in just a moment. But first, we'd like to play a short video for you that highlights the Vision Impaired program and some of our students who are here tonight.
My name is Claire Wright. I graduated January 2021. Basically, I was blind since birth. I also have a condition called septo-optic dysplasia, where my optic nerves are too small and it doesn't even allow light. During high school, I participated in regular band. I also participated in the marching band. I was in the pit and I played the synthesizer.
Claire inspires me every single day. Her work ethic is exceptional. Her resilience to anything that becomes an obstacle to her is incredible. When we moved here, we had pretty high expectations of our vision team. They have taught her so much, and they've taught us so much.
My name is Salome. I'm in 4th grade and I'm 10 years old. My story is I was born without eyeballs at all. So these eyes are prosthetic eyes. For fun, I've always loved reading, especially Harry Potter.
Salome was born with bilateral anorthosmia, which means she was born without eyeballs. She was born in the Republic of Georgia, which is a country right between Eastern Europe and Western Asia. She lived in an orphanage there for 3 years before she came home. When she came home, she hadn't had any experience with books or reading or Braille, but she very quickly learned to write on her Brailler when she was 3. And by the time she was 4, she was reading short sentences and writing sentences. She kind of learned to read and write like most people learn to breathe, I feel like. Francis Howe Vision program has made a huge difference in her life. We more or less moved from the Kansas City area here to the St. Louis area so that she could be a part of the Vision program. We'd heard great things about it and it's been amazing for her.
So the Vision program provides services to students who are blind or visually impaired who have been identified through the evaluation process and have either an IEP or a 504. We provide various different services, instruction in a lot of technology, whether that's low vision aids, so students that still have functional use of their vision might need instruction in Zoom magnification software on a computer, or technology that hooks their iPad to the teacher's smart board, or using devices that will capture text off of a page and read it to them. For students that read Braille, we also teach technology, whether it's a refreshable Braille display, iPads with voiceover, screen reading software, and then we also, obviously, when they're young, teach them Braille so that they are able to read. And then another component of the Vision programs is we teach what's called the expanded core curriculum. It includes activities of daily living, self-determination, compensatory skills. So we're actually teaching cooking and cleaning and laundry. We are enabling those students to be independent and access the curriculum in whatever way that they need to access that curriculum.
The Vision program is important for students because having a vision impairment affects a student's access to literacy and learning.
They are the ones who adapt their work. They're basically their lifeline through the other teachers and the different schools.
I'm so thankful for all of the opportunities that it's given Salome to learn and grow.
The Vision team has been incredible. I mean, I don't even know what other words that I can possibly use, but they have changed our lives forever.
I want my students to be able to have fulfilling, independent lives. The reason I do what I do is so that they can have the job that they want, raise a family, cook their own meals, take care of themselves. They deserve to have a happy, fulfilling life just like anyone else.
But I'm not going to be as famous as Martin Luther King, but anyway, I am on Google.
We are so fortunate to have such an amazing Vision program here at Howell. But now let's recognize our Braille Challenge winners, the reason we're here. So faculty, if you want to join me at the podium, and I'll ask Ms. Gear to go first.
Good evening. My name is Laura Gear. I'm a teacher of the visually impaired here in the Francis Hospital District, and I have the honor today to present two certificates to two of my students. So the first is Luke McKeon. Luke McKeon is hardworking, dedicated, super funny. He works on a daily basis to improve his Braille skills and is a whiz at technology. He starts every day ready to conquer any task that comes his way. I am proud to be his teacher and to present him with recognition for his honorable mention in the sophomore category in the Braille Challenge. Okay. The other student I am privileged to announce is Olivia Wright. Olivia Wright is joyful in everything she does. The word that describes her the best is just sunshine. She's great at perfecting her Braille skills. She's an asset to every classroom that she is in. Her academic growth this year has been nothing short of phenomenal. I am honored to have the opportunity to be her teacher and to present her with the recognition for her third place finish in the sophomore category in the Braille Challenge. Now, Ms. Tice is going to introduce her students.
Hi everyone, I'm Ms. Tice, another TVI in the district here, and I have the opportunity to introduce the wonderful Claire Wright. As you all saw in the video, Claire is incredibly hardworking, dedicated, musically inclined, and with the rate she's moving, including graduating early, absolutely unstoppable. I know I speak for us all when I say that Claire is a joy to teach, and I'm going to miss her as she moves on with her journey. Without further ado, your third place junior varsity division winner, Claire Wright.
And last but not least, Salome's parents are strong advocates for literacy and equal access among students with sight and those with none at all. Salome continues that legacy with her passion for learning, and she loves to have a lot of fun at school. Salome's competed in the Braille Challenge in 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade. In the 1st grade, back in 2018, she got to Los Angeles to compete in the apprentice category of the Braille Challenge finals, but she didn't place that year. However, in second grade in 2019, she got to go back to Los Angeles to compete in the apprentice category of the Braille Challenge Finals, and she took first place. Then, in third grade, in 2020, she competed in the freshman category of the Braille Challenge Finals remotely, and she took second place. So now in fourth grade, here we are in 2021, and we just have to wait to see if she's going to qualify for the finals. She's hoping she's going to get in. She'll find out on June 1st. I'm honored to be here with her. She just said what? They haven't announced that yet. That's a little secret. But I'm honored to be here with her mom and with Salome tonight. And we want to give a quick shout out to her papa and Sona and Ani who are watching from home. So congratulations, Salome.
Let's give these students and our amazing faculty for the visually impaired. And now here to introduce our student board rep from Holland Middle School is Mr. Dan Harmon.
Good evening, members of the Board of Education, Dr. Hogan, our executive leadership team, and guests. On behalf of Holland Middle School, it is my great pleasure to introduce our Honorary Student Board Representative, Ms. Rachel Bremer. Rachel is an 8th grade student who has excelled both academically and personally, and is also an established leader among her peers. She maintains a 4.0 grade point average, is the president of the National Junior Honor Society, and has been active in the Holland Band and Thespian Club for the last 3 years. Rachel plays golf and volleyball and plans to play on both the volleyball team and marching band when she moves on to Francis Howell North High School next year. When asked, Rachel's teachers commented that she is kind, thoughtful, always willing to help, empathetic towards her peers, hardworking, and is a true model of our BEC expectations of kindness, respect, honesty, and responsibility. In addition to all of that, Rachel is an avid horseshoe thrower and has traveled the nation to attend World Horseshoe tournaments and modestly claims to be the best player in her family. Bremers, I'll let you sort that out. She did, however, teach me the difference between a turn shoe and a flip shoe, which I am positive I'll mess up the next time I try to play. When not doing everything else I've already mentioned, Rachel enjoys painting, biking, debate, and coaches a 3rd grade volleyball team. I even recently learned that Rachel starred in her first music video while at Holland, and I did promise not to show that tonight. However, Mr. and Mrs. Bremer, if you would like a link, I can help. I could go on bragging on you for a little while longer, but without further ado, our honorary board member, Ms. Rachel Bremer.
Welcome, Rachel. We're excited to have you here. Feel free to ask any questions at any time. Just do you have a mic? Okay, perfect. The only thing you can't do is vote. Thanks for coming.
Crazy. But it is.
Okay, we'll be moving on to patron comments. During patron comments, patrons are invited to address the Board of Education. When I call your name, please come to the podium so everyone can hear. The board is interested in the public's concerns and opinions. We do not respond to comments or questions during the meeting. Questions and concerns will be addressed by Dr. Hogan and other appropriate staff members at a later date. Please remember that comments will be limited to 3 minutes each. Per board protocol, comments about personal matters and remarks about or directed at individual employees or students are not allowed. First up, we have Gordon Midgley.
Can you hear me? Appreciate the opportunity to speak to you. Thank you to the parents, patrons, board, teachers and staff. I'm a patron of the district. Our children graduated here years ago, and I love our country and people from all walks of life, my brothers and sisters of all creeds and colors. I'm here to talk about patriotic education. But even more than that, I'm here to talk about unity. America isn't a race or ethnicity or skin color. America is freedom. America is one nation under God, dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. We need to pull together, not tear apart. We need to not shame and smear children or adults for the color of their skin, period. In Nevada, a high school senior named William, who happens to be biracial with light skin, failed a mandatory class based on critical race theory because he refused to confess his white dominance as part of the course requirements for students who appear to be white. The school board has the power through policy to stop this and to set a tone to protect our children from racially divisive and anti-American creeping Marxist indoctrination, which is on the rise. It should alarm every parent, grandparent, and freedom-loving person. We need to wake up, stand up, and show up. I respectfully call on the board to establish a policy of promoting patriotic education and curbing the racially divisive and anti-American 1619 Project and, quote, critical race theory, unquote. I submit the following resolution for consideration to be adopted. Resolution in response to racial division and anti-Americanism. Whereas the President of the United States months ago noted that the New York Times 1619 Project rewrites American history to teach our children we were founded on the principle of oppression rather than freedom. Critical race theory, the 1619 Project, and the crusade against American history is toxic propaganda, ideological poison that, if not removed, will dissolve the civic bonds that tie us together. It will destroy our country. That corrosive ideology is systemically divisive. Whereas a perfect example of critical race theory was recently published by the Smithsonian Institution, this document alleged that concepts such as hard work, rational thinking, and the nuclear family and belief in God are not values that unite all Americans, but were instead aspects of whiteness. This is offensive and outrageous to every American of every ethnicity. And it's especially harmful to children from minority backgrounds who should be uplifted, not disparaged. Viewing every issue through the lens of race will impose a new segregation. Whereas we have a constitutional republic, form of government, of the people, by the people, and for the people, to protect natural rights. All are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. As Frederick Douglass said, the Constitution is a glorious liberty document, which ideals he credits for ending slavery.
Thank you, your time is up.
Okay. I respectfully ask the board to formally adopt this resolution. Thank you.
Next up, we have Katie Rash.
Hi. I'm here tonight to ask the district to consider supporting passing the resolution in response to racial division and anti-Americanism that was emailed to the board members, and that was also mentioned by Gordon. I have copies of this for anyone who is interested who has not seen it already. Critical race theory divides people into dominant and subordinate groups based on factors like race, gender, sexual orientation, and religion. While it often gets lumped into diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, it is unhelpful at bringing people together. The teaching of critical race theory results in hostility rather than unity. It has an effect that is opposite of the intention. I would like to read for you an excerpt from a critical race theory book that is found in the library of Sager Middle School. This book is Anti-Racist by Tiffany Jewell. I'm reading from pages 12 through 13. Many others will try to get you to fit into an imaginary box. This box includes what we call the dominant culture. If you are white, upper middle class, cisgender, male, educated, athletic, neurotypical, and or able-bodied, you are in this box. If you do not fit into this box, you are considered to be part of what is called the subordinate culture. Folks included in the subordinate culture include Black, brown, Indigenous, people of color, the global majority, queer, transgender, and non-binary folks, cisgender women, youth, Muslim, Jewish, Buddhist, atheist, and non-Christian folks, neurodiverse folks, folks living with disabilities, those living in poverty, those who and more who exist outside of this imaginary box than those who fit inside of it. The dominant culture is what has been considered normal, and this normal has been created and maintained by those who are in the box. It is this version of normal that has shaped how we see ourselves and the world around us. Who is smart, beautiful, worthy, a leader, who is trouble, end quote. This quote is representative of critical race theory. I do not understand why we have this in the library in our district. I hope it's not in our classrooms. I look forward to hearing from the board if it is in our classrooms, and I do ask the board to reject critical race theory. Thank you.
Next up, we have Chris Brooks.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, administration. Glad to be back. E pluribus unum, from many one, the motto of our country. Nowhere else on earth can you find a nation where anyone can come from a background anywhere and yet be fully considered as much a part of that nation as anyone else who's lived there. This idea, springing from the truths of our founding documents, has motivated millions of people to seek a better life and great potential here. But today we see those who would invert that motto. From unity, they would seek to create division. And they would divide us into a multitude of identity groups, pledging our allegiance to what we have different rather than what we have in common. Those who preach this ideology seek to weaken cultural institutions, such as school districts, and erase our history, so that they can remake them in a utopian image. We find it even here in our district, where recently middle school homeroom classes are receiving lessons on so-called equity. Okay, I have the slides and the notes from these lessons right here. These lessons are fact-free. They are opinion-based. They are long and confusing terms and short, untested, proven principles. They use memes with no basis in reality, examples that make no sense, and a TED Talk that actually proves the opposite point of what it claims. Students hearing this lesson will come away less educated than the day before. This presentation is anti-education. It ought to have a Surgeon General's warning as its first slide. 3 minutes is not enough to refute it in its entirety, but to the educators teaching this, let's have an open debate. Come, you present your worldview in the open to the public, and I will educate you as to the rest of the story. When my children started elementary school in this district, if you remember it, they learned the 7 habits of highly successful people. They learned about a growth mindset, right? They learned to reject voices that spoke of a fixed worldview and inability to change. Now the district, in their elementary schools, through their homeroom, or middle schools, through their homeroom classes, are teaching students that identity determines life outcomes, that inequity is all around us and must be fought, and the story of our country is just not good enough. So they might as well give up, go home, and wait for a handout. I reject these ideas completely, and so should you. Tonight I call on the Board of Education, the superintendent, and other administration leaders to repudiate this type of material and commit to a knowledge-based curriculum full of proven facts, principles, and truths that will inspire kids to learn, to grow, to become American citizens who are true to the principle of equality before the law and fundamental rights as laid out in our founding documents. They then will be citizens and not serfs. This is what the American public education system was built for. It's what its founders wanted. It is how early America became the most educated country in the world. And it is what we seem to be in the process of forgetting. Thank you.
Next up, we have Jerry Keller.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the school board for having our students in school this year. I appreciate it. I also would like to mention, why aren't we teaching our students the Constitution of the United States? And I'm going to read from the Constitution. Celebrating the Constitution to commemorate the September 17, 1787 signing the Constitution of the United States Congress has designated September 17th of each year as Constitution Day, and September 17th through the 23rd of each year as Constitution Week. In 2004, Public Law 108-447, Section 11 was passed requiring the following: each educational institution that receives federal funds for a fiscal year shall hold educational programs on the United States Constitution on September 17th of such year for the students served by the educational institution. Each federal agency or department shall provide educational and training material concerning the United States Constitution to each employee on September 17th of each year. In keeping with these congressional mandates, recent presidents have solicited help from the federal and local government leaders as well as civil and religious leaders to hold events to commemorate the occasion. We encourage all citizens to use their influence to organize and support programs that honor the Constitution. Resources for holding such a celebration may be found at nccs.net. And I want to thank you for your time, and I hope that you find it within yourselves and find it in your heart to do it for our kids today. Let's not fall behind. Let's be a leader. We got a great school district here. Let's make it greater. Thank you for your time.
We've also received patron comments via the online submission form. I will now turn it over to our Director of Communications to read those comments aloud so that I, along with the rest of the board, can focus on the messages being shared.
Thank you, Ms. Lane. So we've received 3 comments online. The first from Janice Rink, a resident in the district. She says, I strongly desire you to pass the resolution promoting patriotic education. The next comment is from Dean Yerolamek. He says, I request that you please consider passing the proposed resolution promoting patriotic education and not the divisive 1619 critical race theory. And the last comment was from Jeff Coper. It says, please pass the resolution promoting patriotic education and not the divisive 1619 critical race theory. Thank you.
FHSD?
See if I can write this. Good evening. Dr. Hogan, FHEA would like to express our deepest sympathies on the loss of your wife's grandmother. We still have many concerns for next year in the amount of positions that have been cut. This will be a disservice to the students of Francis Howell. They deserve better. Our teachers deserve better. We have hired great teachers, and we could lay off teachers that have been in the district for many years. We don't need to do this. The revenue is coming in better than expected. We will receive more money with the Biden stimulus package, which should be a hefty amount of revenue. This should help in us maintain until the reassessment year. It's not too late to reverse these cuts. I hope everyone enjoys a much-deserved spring break. Take time for yourselves and your families. Thank you.
No. All right, board, I would like a motion to approve the agenda for March 18th, 2021 as presented.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Board, I would like a motion to approve the meeting minutes of February 18th, 2021 and March 2nd, 2021 as presented.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we will now have our MSBA board report.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Missouri School Boards Association's board report for the month of March. We thank you for the opportunity to share some news and information during a few minutes of your board meeting. We begin with a look at the effort to provide a more coordinated approach to early childhood care and education in Missouri. Missouri's new Office of Childhood will consolidate early childhood-related programs in various state agencies into a single office within the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Chief of Early Learning Pam Thomas tells us the new office will allow for a whole child approach to serving children and families.
We know that we need children to be safe and feel safe, and they need to be healthy and fed and feel well, have a good well-being in order for them to learn. So the great thing about this new office is bringing that whole child approach to the way that children learn and getting them ready for school.
Thomas adds the Office of Childhood will play a role in supporting the availability of early childhood education programs in the state.
I think it also helps provide a way for us to promote and elevate early childhood in places that we're not doing that right now, but it also respects that all of our programs are voluntary. So I think it really comes to that perspective of if families have a need and they need something, how can we provide that for them? Very family centric. And sometimes what you find is we have more program centric situations where this is the program that's available, but it may not meet the family's needs. And so we need to be more family centric and looking at those voluntary opportunities for families to access if that's what they need.
Thomas says work is underway to move programs within the Department of Social Services and the Department of Health and Senior Services into the Office of Childhood, along with programs currently in the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. The goal is to ensure children throughout the state have access to more consistent and quality programs and services. The new Office of Childhood will be in place by August 28th. By the way, MSBA's Future Builders Foundation is now accepting applications for the 2021 Early Childhood Education Program of the Year Awards. There will be 3 awards for exemplary early childhood education programs based on school district size. Applications will be judged by the Future Builders Board of Directors in April. The deadline for submitting an application is March 31st. MSBA continues to be concerned about several issues being considered in the current session of the General Assembly that would be harmful to our public schools. They include the expansion of charter schools without adequate accountability, the creation of virtual charter schools, and tax credit voucher programs, sometimes called empowerment scholarship accounts, that would funnel public dollars to private schools that are not accountable to taxpayers. There are also bills under consideration that would create a system of open enrollment among school districts, allowing students in one district to attend school in another district free of charge. The resident district would then be required to pay the non-resident district the per-pupil local effort, and the non-resident district can count the student as a resident for the purpose of state and federal aid. Jefferson City School Board member Ken Enlow testified at a recent legislative hearing. He's concerned taxpayers from one school district could end up financially subsidizing another school district.
We all know district levies are passed by local taxpayers with the expectation that those funds and those dollars are going to be used locally and that district. And so we obviously have a concern about any legislation that would cause that to be messed with. To me, it's the equivalent of taking the state taxes that I pay to Missouri and then someone telling you as the legislature to send those dollars to Illinois and let them decide how they're used. And I don't think that's a great idea.
As the legislative session progresses, we will keep you updated on developments again this year through our Legislative Voice newsletter sent to members via email each Friday during the session, our Twitter feed with up-to-the-minute developments, through critical issue alerts, and periodic webinars. We urge you to stay in contact with your legislators during the session and communicate to them the impact legislation will have on your school district. A reminder that the MSBA Legislative Forum is now scheduled for April 12th in Jefferson City. Check the MSBA website for registration information. There's still time to apply for a spot in MSBA's Center for Education Safety's School Safety Academy coming up in early August. The Academy will provide a variety of courses at no cost for certification of participants as school safety specialists. The School Safety Academy is open to all school safety coordinators, school resource officers, school protection officers, and other key school safety personnel. Space is limited. Check the Center for Education Safety section of the MSBA website for information on the application process to attend the Academy. That's it for this month's edition of the MSBA Board Report. Thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and so long from Columbia.
Okay, now we will have Dr. Lucas Lammers, Director of Secondary Education, and Dr. Andrew Stewart, Director of Lewis and Clark Career Center, present a best practice for us.
Hello, Board of Education, Dr. Hogan, members of the Cabinet, members of the community. It's my pleasure tonight to introduce the principal of the Lewis and Clark Career Center, Dr. Andrew Stewart. He's here to talk to us tonight about the Lewis and Clark Career Center and all of the programs that they offer to our students to help them prepare for careers, many of them straight after graduation into the workforce, some of them going into college to continue their education. It's one of our key components of our career readiness initiatives in the Francis Howell School District. I'd like to introduce Dr. Andrew Stewart.
Oh, thank you, Luke. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. And I brought some guests I'm going to introduce you to here in a little bit. So again, my name is Andrew Stewart. It's a pleasure to be in front of you again. I know a couple of you I recognize from taking you on a tour of our school, and to any of you interested, we'd love to have you over anytime. So how do I, oh, there we go. So I can't read that from here, but I can read it from here. So Lewis and Clark has been the it's been the career and technical education choice in our county here for 55 years. Back when there was just 5 high schools, one per district. And so typically, since I've been there, it's been pretty steady that about 30% of our students come from the Francis Howell School District. And this year we were on track for a bigger number, but because of the pandemic, we did not offer any kind of virtual option because it's hands-on. It didn't work for us, okay? So we did not do it, so some kids weren't comfortable. But I tell you, and I'm gonna repeat what somebody earlier said tonight. Thank you guys for getting us in session this year. Clearly it was the right move because it's been going so well. So right now we have 14 1 or 2 year programs. We're soon going to have 15. We serve 16. Starting next year, we'll be serving 16 public high schools. Plus we serve Christian high school, Lutheran high school, and we have homeschool students too. I mean, very small numbers, but we have them. Kids come either in the morning or the afternoon session, and then they take their English, math, science, it depends, you know, at their home school, whatever they need. All of our instructors, and I have one right here in the flesh, come straight from industry. So all the teachers at, say, Francis Howell High School, they go get a bachelor's degree maybe in education or something, they get a certificate, they practice teaching for a semester, and then they get hired as a 22, 23, 24-year-old. Mr. Vesselman here is an instructor. He came right from Craftsman Industries in St. Charles. He was a foreman welder there for 12 years, and so we had to give him a crash course. But he is certified to teach welding in career centers anyway. So that's fun because it's real life experience. It's important. About 1/3 of our kids have an IEP. This year it's 36% of our kids have an IEP. So it's just the way it is. But a lot of those kids like the hands-on learning, and we have supports in place that really help them. And honestly, for a lot of these kids, having 2 years at Lewis and Clark, when they are in an IEP, it really, really helps them, especially if they're going into the union, because they can, it just gives them a lot of heads up, so then when they graduate, they're much more likely to be successful. And it's a school where, that's the only school I've ever worked in my long career, that almost every kid there loves coming to school. So why would you ever want to work anywhere else? So our attendance rate is very high. So you can see all the different programs we have divided into career clusters, and beautiful slide that shows where all the Friends House students this semester are located. We have a new program coming next year, law and public safety. It's going to be called law enforcement. We're hiring for that teacher instructor right now. He or she is going to come straight out of the field, out of police law of some sort. Right now we're projected just for next year, right now enrolled, that we have kids from Friends House 122. That's for next school year, but it's not over yet. We're still, I would like, we'll probably see, I'm sure we'll have more than 100. I mean, we've got about 10 kids that we've slotted, but we don't know which program they're going in, so they're coming over to visit to make sure we've gotten the right fit. So we're continuing to increase the enrollment. You can see we have a subdivision. A lot of you know that we build a home every year. This was the only home that took us 2 years to build because we were shut down last year. This is the last home of our subdivision. We expect this home will sell for, it's a 2,800 square foot ranch with a lot of custom features. So it could sell for $450, which would be a new record for us. So we're going to be in a new subdivision over by Knoll Elementary starting next year. So these are just pictures. That's a building trade student putting some final trim on the house this year. And there's a brick and stone. They're putting stick-up stone on the back porch of the home. That is our HVAC lab. Those are kids checking out gas furnaces. There's the electrical trades practicing doing runs in their lab. That's health occupations, health-related occupations. So they're practicing transferring people into a wheelchair or out of a wheelchair. Early childhood, we have kids going out into, well, this year they're only going to 2 places. The Early Childhood Center in St. Charles and then another elementary school, so they're in there every day working. There's the auto collision repair shop. Easy to take a golf ball and make a dent and then tell them to fix it. This is a computer maintenance and networking, so these are the people that actually built computers for themselves this year, new computers, so that's one of the new computers that he's building. This is our machining shop. This is one of our newest programs from 3 or 4 years ago. This is the second year side, which is the CNC computer numeric control programs. What else we got? There's auto service technology, one of the original programs. And of course, everyone's favorite, welding. Somebody in the welding booth. Natural question is, what do kids do when they leave Lewis and Clark? well, about half of them go straight into the workforce. On average, about 40% go on for 2 or 4 year college. A lot of them might go to Rankin or State Technical College. But we also have, we'll be introducing somebody who's going to Missouri State next year. We always get a dozen or so going to join the armed forces. But the interesting thing to me is that 75% of the graduates, when we follow up a year from, that's our date is a year. Just every year, it's about 75%, 3/4 of them, are in the field or a related field that they studied at Lewis and Clark, which is pretty neat. All right, so, but the big stars of the show are my 2 guests. You already met Mr. Vesselman, who, don't hold against him, he did not attend Francis Howell School. He is a graduate of Lewis and Clark back in the day, but he is now a graduate of Francis Howell, but he teaches Francis Howell kids every single day and thinks they're wonderful. All right, so stand up, you guys, come on up here. So we've got one person here who's a 2013 graduate from Francis Howell Central, and we have somebody who's going to be graduating from Francis Howell High this year. And I'll just let them introduce themselves. So this is Paige and Nathan.
Hello everyone, I'm Paige. Last year I took the Health Occupations program at Lewis and Clark, and it really prepared me for the future and what I really want to do. A lot of kids go in, they don't know what they want to do in the future. Some of them are like, oh, I'm kind of interested in this, but I don't really know. This school allows the kids to, do the program, try it out, and see if that's what they want to do before they actually go to college and waste all those years studying something that they don't really like. So for my program, we spent the first semester kind of studying and practicing, and then the second semester was when we actually went out into the field and we got to work hands-on in hospitals, rehab facilities, and long-term care facilities. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we only got 2 weeks of that, but in those 2 weeks, I learned more than I've ever learned. But there are some students that, will take a program and then they realize, oh, I don't really like that, and it saves them a lot of time and money. With my program especially, I was able to get my CNA. And so I did that, and now I'm eligible to work in hospitals, long-term care facilities, rehab facilities, and that's what I'll be doing this summer. And a couple weekends ago, I went to Mo State, I toured it, and I talked to the nursing admissions counselor, and she was saying that what they're really looking at now is more so experience and not as much GPA like they used to. And so this really helps me. I told her I got my CNA and I will be doing that this summer, and she said that's really going to help you get into the nursing program. So I think this is a great program. There was not a day where I didn't want to go, and yeah, it was just a lot of fun and really helped prepare me. So thank you.
I'm just going to say, GPA, I'm sure it's fine. I can't imagine it's lower than 3.9.
Hello everybody, I'm Nathan Hogan. I am a 2013 graduate of Francis Howell Central High School. I attended Lewis and Clark through 2011 to 2013. It was probably the best 2 years of my life being in high school, because in regular school I did well in it, but the focus was with my hands. So whenever I got to go to Lewis and Clark, I spent the first year able to actually hands-on learn how to weld and get confident in my own skills, to where the following year I was able to apply those skills at the company that I work for now, which is Didion Manufacturing. I've worked there for the past 8 years. I'm now the foreman at the company that I work for, and since going through tech school, being able to get that experience beforehand really helped me kind of shoot ahead of the crowd, if you will, to get that little bit of experience before. So it's also opened the opportunity for me to go back and learn and also teach as well, which has helped me progress as a plant manager or foreman, however you want to look at it. But it's been great, and I hope to see more students attend and have the opportunities that I have. So, thank you.
So thank you. Thank you for your comments tonight and for being here tonight. You're great representatives of the program. We're able to address any questions that you may have.
So I have a question. What does the application process look like, and is every student that applies accepted into the program?
It's a good question. So the application process is most kids apply their sophomore year in the fall, okay, and then they learn whether they're accepted about this time of the year, okay, and not every kid who applies is accepted. So like there's the process is you fill out an application, then you have to take something called an OASIS test, which is an occupational type test that just, it's one piece of what we look at, okay? It's a 45-minute time test. And then, so we look at, we'll put everyone in a rubric. So we look at attendance, discipline, GPA, that score, all those things that goes into a rubric score, and the kids get kind of ranked based on that. But we look at everybody totally. You know, some kid might not have a strong test score, but they have great attendance. And then there's a place in there to say, why do you want to come to Lewis? Why did you pick, you know, auto service as your first choice? And if they say, you know, if you have two kids that are equal and one kid says, looks interesting, and another kid says, I've always wanted to work on cars, so you're going to take that kid. Because, you know, we're judged as a school based on what our output is, right? Because we get a lot of tuition funding from you guys and all the districts, but we also get a lot of state aid that depends on what happens when they leave, right? So the other thing is we have so if a kid has an IEP, and we know that maybe they don't test great, you know, on a timed test, we have something called the ACE test, which is a hands-on test. It's a computerized test, but then there's a hands-on portion, and so kids go through that. It's like a 2-hour test, and they'll come to Lewis and Clark and work with a person that we have that does the test, and then sometimes they may not qualify on the OASIS test, but then they qualify on the ACE test, and that's how we kind of make up for that, and that's how we get 36% of our kids to an IEP. So unfortunately, we don't have room for everybody that wants it, but sometimes, but we pretty much have room for everybody that qualifies and wants it. Now sometimes they may not get their first choice program, because like for example, he's got 18 kids we have 18 welding booths, so we can only take 36 kids total in there, and then he's got kids in there from the second year, you know what I mean? So he's got fewer spots, and we might have 2 to 4 kids from every high school here in his class, depending on the situation. So yeah, I mean, if we had, like in his class, we had 36 welding booths and 2 teachers, we could fill that. That's probably the most popular program people want to get into, but anyway, so yeah, we do our best. Hey, thank you very much for your support.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, board, I would like a motion to approve the consent agenda for March 18th, 2021 as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Board, I would like a motion to approve the Title I funding staffing as presented.
So moved.
Ms. Simpkins?
Thank you.
Each year, Director Garland, our Director of Elementary, will meet with our title-funded schools to review how we best use the Title I funding that is provided to us in the most effective way to support our students. Much of our funding is used in staffing, as our building administrators fully support the human resources over the instructional materials and supplies that could be purchased with the funds. This year, we are bringing a recommendation forward to you to modify the Title I staffing just a little bit. At Harvest Ridge Elementary and Henderson, you will see no change. The funding will continue to support 1 certified instructional coach and 2 paraprofessionals. What we are asking you to consider tonight is at Central Elementary, there will be a slight change. We currently have 1 certified reading teacher and 6 paraprofessionals. And we're asking to modify that so that we can have 1 reading teacher, 1 instructional coach, and 3 paraprofessionals. One of our paraprofessional positions is already vacant. The other 2 positions are filled, and we are already working with those employees to offer them an equivalent full-time paraprofessional position throughout the district. But we do feel like this change will really support the Tier 1 instruction that's happening in our building and allow us to support our students better.
Any questions, board? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Board, I would like a motion to approve the February 2021 monthly financial report as presented.
So moved.
Mr. Sowell.
Thank you, Mrs. Lang. I'd be happy to answer any questions the board might have.
Any questions? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Board, I would like a motion to approve the purchases over $7,500 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion, board? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Board, I'd like a motion to approve a 1-year renewal of EHR and school nursing management subscription as presented.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
Board, I would like a motion to approve the revisions to Regulation 7210 as presented.
So moved. Second.
Bless you. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Board, I would like a motion to approve the policy review second reading as presented.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We will now turn it to Dr. Hogan for an inclusion and equity update.
Thank you. This month, when we met with our equity committee, we began to look at results of our district-wide audit on equity outcomes in our district. So the audit is broken into 8 sections, and we've got groups of people working on input for those audits and really what the reality is for our current reality around our district. And as a committee, one of the main things we talked about during the year was to prioritize what we see in those equity audits as far as what work we have to do and where we should begin and prioritize that work. So with those 8 different sections, we covered 2 of them at our past meeting, and each of our next 2, we will cover 3 each time, have lots of discussion about what we're seeing there. And as we conclude this school year, we will be prioritizing the equity work that next year will then turn into action teams made up of other district personnel and other representation and move forward on with our equity work. So it's exciting times. We spent a lot of time building some groundwork, and we're ready to really see the results of where we are and what our next steps are going to start to look like.
Thank you. We'll now have superintendent comments. With Dr.
Yes,
Holman.
and I'm actually going to turn it over to a couple of different people first, and then I will wrap it up. Do we have another microphone that we can hand to? Sorry. First, I've asked Dr. Buckman if she could give us an update on some conversation about virtual classes for next year. So we're already, not already, we have been for a while making considerations for next year. So I'm just going to ask her to just give a little update on where we are with that.
Sure. I sent you an update earlier this week, so I'll just kind of recap some of the big ideas in that. Right now, when kids came back from winter break, we went through our normal enrollment process for our middle and high school students. And when we did that, we asked them to make the selection outside of COVID-related reasons if they thought they would plan to return in person or virtually for next school year. And so we had about 157 high school students who indicated they would like to learn virtually next year, and we had about 146 middle school students indicate that they would like to learn virtually. So to give you a little context, right now, second semester, we have about 1,100 high schoolers learning virtually, and next year 157 that indicated. And right now we have about 772 middle schoolers learning virtually, and again, that number for next year is 146. We don't have an enrollment process for elementary since they don't pick their classes, they just advance. And so we really have no early indication of how many of our elementary students might return virtually next school year. And so as you can imagine, with numbers that look that different for next year and that are that small, there's a lot of budget and staffing implications for running a virtual program. And with numbers that small, it makes it challenging to do that internally. And so as we started looking at what the options might look like, if our numbers really are that small, the odds are higher that we would use a vendor like Launch for many of our students who are interested in virtual learning. The big question mark is how many kids might choose virtual for COVID-related reasons. And so we felt like before we could really start to put some plans together, we need to get a handle on that. We also think it's really early to ask parents and families to commit for next school year and how they would feel comfortable learning. So we've worked with the communications department, and towards the end of spring break, only our virtual families will get a survey, and it's going to ask them if they, right now, plan to return virtually or in person. It'll be a non-binding commitment. We're not asking for names. We're not asking for contact information, and that's intentional because we don't want them to feel like they're making a firm commitment. We're just trying to get some ballpark numbers of where people are at and what they're thinking for next year so that we can start working on some plans. In the early part of the survey, we'll tell them kind of right now, these are what our numbers look like. It may or may not look like it does right now. We just want to be really transparent that we're not sure yet, and a lot of that will depend on what the data says in the survey results. So I think that closes April 5th. And then we'll bring that data to full cabinet so we can talk through it with finance and human resources and transportation and start to look at what makes the most sense. And then we'll take that to academic team. And then based on kind of those high-level decisions and the direction we're headed, then we'll start to pull teacher groups. And we have lots of virtual teachers who can give us a lot of good feedback about what worked and what didn't, so that if we build something internally, we also know that our in-person teachers were impacted by the decisions made about virtual teaching, and they'll have lots of input that they can provide us as well. So we would expect to have some updates in mid-April. We sent a video update out to staff this week in the Weekly Howl, just kind of letting them know all of that, and that we'll share another update in the Weekly Howl, and there'll be opportunities for input along the way as we start to shape whatever the program looks like. That's kind of where we are right now.
All right, thank you. The next part of the comments, I'd like to turn over to Dr. Rumpus, who's going to talk to us a little bit about where we are with vaccines. Lots going on, and things are at times changing quickly, so I'm going to let him give you an update there.
Thank you, board members. Just wanted to give you an update on where we're at with some of the initiatives we're taking on as a district. I think you're aware that we've been working with St. Charles County as well as the other 5 districts in the county to plan pods. So opportunities where on Saturdays we could provide the vaccination to our employees over a course of 5 weeks. We were initially scheduled to be the first district that would participate, but that was before the opening date for Tier 3 became available, which was actually this past Monday, so we got moved to being the last location of the pod. Dr. Vanderpool has been working extensively with our nurses to provide logistical support to the entire county group to plan these pods taking place. The first one is actually scheduled to take place this Saturday at Holt. And what the county has found out, though, is over the past several weeks since this planning began, a significant number of vaccinations have become available through other sources. And so a lot of the faculty and staff they're reaching out to invite for this Saturday to the first pod, I believe they sent out 700 or 800 invitations in the first round and only got 100 people to respond saying they were interested. And so they've casted a wider net, and more people each day are getting the invitation to come in for the vaccination. We do expect, so that planning began several months ago, just given the logistics that needed to take place. At the same time, the governor announced that educators could get the vaccination a little bit earlier, and some private providers began doing them several weeks ago, so more and more staff have been able to get them. Because of that, we believe that the county will be making decisions here very soon about whether to hold all of these events moving forward over the next 5 weeks. Just today, they hosted a large-scale drive-through event that they were piloting at the Family Arena, that they were prepared to do 4,000 vaccinations today. They've announced 3 additional dates next week. And then you just heard today that the governor announced opening the next 2 phases over the next several weeks. So the reality is all adults will be able to get vaccinations by early April throughout the state. We're also thrilled and want to thank several of our partners. Last week, Compass Health reached out to us and let us know that they had approximately 1,800 doses of the vaccine that would be available this week, that they were going to be making available on their website, and said, we would love to offer these to your staff if you can get the information out to them in the next 15 minutes before it goes live in about a half an hour. And so we were able to get that out, and then shortly after that, we heard from Sam's Club here in St. Peter's that they also had several hundred doses of the vaccine that they wanted to offer to our staff if they could first. And so we were able to push that information out. I'm very appreciative of Ms. Simpkins and Mr. Delaney and our building administrators, department leaders, because they really worked with our staff this week to cover people to go get the vaccination. We've had hundreds of our staff take advantage of this opportunity. So between the county opportunities that are coming up and through our partners, our staff have had access, and we hope we'll continue to have a greater opportunity to get the vaccination moving forward. As part of our large-scale plan of staying open and mitigating COVID, we know that the vaccination is important. We do hope that some of these pods will happen, but at the same time, we want to encourage every staff member to get registered anywhere you can and get the vaccine as soon as you can, and not wait for a definitive date when it may take place within the district, because the reality is they can probably get it through another location before that might happen.
All right, thank you. And then I will wrap up by saying, as we've talked about heading into each of our breaks this school year, it's been a long year. People really deserve the breaks when they have come to us. So getting to spring break, and as Dr. Rumpus just alluded to, we've been in school the whole time. And there's only one other district of our size that can say that for this school year in the state, to have been in person the whole time, no closures. We've been able to really navigate this. As a result, everyone's tired, everyone's been working really hard, and I encourage everyone to really take advantage of the break and step away from the work, relax, rewind, get refreshed. And also, as we talk about the vaccines, it's a fantastic time. It seems like, months and months we've been waiting for these times to get here. They are important times, and we're excited to finally be here. But also, just to remind people, we're not done yet. We still have to be careful. We're going to keep wearing our masks. We're going to keep doing our distancing and keep washing our hands. And just to remind everybody, even when you're on breaks, if you're traveling, if you're out in the community, to continue doing their part to help us stay successful and stay open. Thank you.
Thank you. Board members, anyone have any comments, requests? Okay. And as a reminder, board, please review the agenda items labeled information. There's updates on there on enrollment, discipline, construction, and our patron comment reports. Our next meeting is April 15th. All right, board, as we did not complete closed session, I need a motion to return to closed session.
Motion. Second.
By roll call.
Mr. Lane?
Aye.
Ms. Lane?
Aye.
Mr. Lane? Mr. Lane? Ms. Walker?
Aye.
Ms. Stiglitz?
Aye.
Mr. Zigmeier?
Oh, my apologies, Rachel. I'm sorry. Is there anything you'd like to say, contribute? Any thoughts? Are you excited about spring break?
I know some people talked about how we learn the Constitution in school, and I would say I do agree with that, because our school, I have a teacher, he's in the military, and he makes sure that we read the Constitution, but reading it also, reading it is confusing. These people wrote it 200 years ago, I think, and it's confusing, and it is something that needs to be taught, because these are these students' rights, and if they grow up without knowing these rights, they can be abused. And I know that I'm an inspector and we learn about the Bill of Rights too, but that should also be something offered to students who aren't inspected.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us. We're excited to have you. Have a wonderful break and rest of your semester.
Thanks, Rachel.